I'm Bob. I like coffee. I also like to tell stories. Here at the Bobcast Coffee, it's time for a coffee break. So take a coffee break with me, pour yourself a cup of your favorite Joe, and by the time you're done with your coffee, you'll know something about me you really didn't want to know. But you will have fun learning it. Just remember, my stories are true. For the most part. All right, today I am enjoying my coffee from a Character Counts cup. It's from the Boy Scouts of America, and it's a gift you get when you are a friend of scouting, an FOS. Friends of scouting, real simple. If you have money, you can be a friend of scouting. It is their fundraiser. So, Friends of Scouting, if you get a chance, enjoy the Scouts of America. And it works good for drinking coffee. All right. Today is episode 15, Firewood. It's always an important thing to have. And now, you'll find out lessons to be learned with firewood. The year was 2000. Joshua was about to be born, and we were living in our first home together, which was a crappy little house in Southern California. And when I say crappy, well, it was on Muscatel, the great name for a street. Well, it's not all true. It's not totally all crappy. But we did have to pay a month's rent before we could move in. I mean, we had to strip the floors, patch holes in the walls. But hey, we could afford it, and we got moved in. And it wasn't bad. I mean, there was some nice things about it. It was the third house on the lot, and that property was long and thin, so we were way off the street. And we backed up to power lines. And so there was a nursery underneath the power lines, which meant we didn't have any noise from that side of the house. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a bonus room. It had 2 back porches and a detached garage. And it also had a lot of character. But one thing it did not have. That was a good central heater. At its best, that central heater was just plain bad. So, like any good Bob, I went out looking for an answer. And we ended up being given 2 wood-burning stoves. A small black rectangle stove that would fit right into our fireplace. And since the fireplace had a crack in the chimney, we couldn't use the fireplace, but we took the flue for the wood-burning stove and we sent it all the way up the chimney. So now the crack didn't matter, and we could heat the front end of the house with that one stove. And in the bonus room, we had a 1940s coal-burning stove that was basically burnt out. The firebox was burnt out, so it was big enough that we could put wood in, and it worked really well for heating up the back end of the house. And with both stoves going, we didn't use that useless central heater at all. Now, as far as firewood went, well, I'm Bob. I'm cheap. So I would stop every time I found any wood on the curb. And in Southern California, the straight winds out there would break branches and bring down trees all the time. So if you kept your eyes peeled, you could fill up your Toyota Nova, which is the Bob car. That's a Chevy Nova made in Japan. And I could keep that filled with firewood. And it all needed to be split. So once again, Bob goes out and gets an axe and starts chopping wood. Well, an axe is not the only thing you need. Several metal wedges and a sledgehammer come in handy. And with my tools of destruction, I set up a nice little wood chopping area right next between the garage and the house. And every couple of days, I would bring home some wood and start chopping. So here we are, the week that Joshua is going to be born. And my parents have driven up from Oklahoma in their motorhome, and they are parked right out in front of the house on that long driveway. Now, coming home from work, I happened to stop because I found some very nice chunks of a tree trunk. And so it was on someone's curb, so I packed it up in the car. And my dad, when I got home, my dad was quite amused that I had so much wood stuffed into my little Toyota Nova. So before the sun goes down, I'm going to chop up as much wood as I can because, well, the pile of burnable wood was getting pretty small. So off I go. Now my dad thinks that this might be a little fun. So he joins me to do some chopping. Now there is some kind of manly man John Wayne feeling attitude in chopping wood. It's a job that has immediate gratification. You swing an axe and whack, the wood falls into two pieces. And that feels great. Now, if you really want this feeling, you gotta do it right. So, to chop wood, you stand in front of your target, shoulders square on. Your feet should be shoulder width apart, and you bring that axe down straight on the wood. The wood should be raised so the axe hits straight on. And what I've done is I've taken one really big stump and I have it standing up. And then I'll put each log to chop on it. Now, I would love to say that I kept my workspace nice and clean, but that's not true. There's wood chips everywhere. And there's a scrap wood from the wood shop, which was in our garage. And it was all in a messy pile, the scrap wood was. But overall, it's okay. So as I explain how to chop wood to my dad, I get a log that is just too big to chop. So I put a wedge in the middle and I tap it into place with the back of the axe. Then I grab the sledgehammer and whack that log hard and it splits into two. Now, the two of us are taking turns splitting wood. We're using the axe or the sledgehammer, but I gotta say, having someone helping chop wood is kind of nice. I'm watching wood get smaller and smaller, and when you're burning wood stoves, the pieces have to be pretty small. Now I watch more wood split, and then I split some wood, and then I watch more wood get split. And it's starting to get a little dark as the sun sets in Southern California. And I start thinking we really need to shut down this operation, and we need to do it soon. I don't have a light on this corner of the house. And my dad's working on a fairly large log and has been taking several swings with the axe, and there it still sits. So as my dad gathered up the wedges and the sledgehammer, I suggest that we make this the last log. So that way we don't get hurt. At this point, Dad starts to drive the wedges into the wood. But the wedge just bounces out. So he tries again and it bounces out again. So he grabs that wedge in one hand and the sledgehammer in the other and goes to tap the wedge in like a nail. Dad yelps. Dad curses. Dad is jumping back and grabbing his thumb because he just smashed that thumb between the wedge and the sledgehammer. He cusses again. and he heads into the house to find some first aid for his hand. I just stand there in my most judgmental Bob pose, thinking to myself, boy, was that stupid. We'll be lucky if we don't end up at an ER getting a stitch put in that thumb of his. So, feeling a little superior, I decide that I'll go check on my dad only after I Paul Bunyan this log in one fell swoop. I toss those wedges and the sledgehammer into the scrap pile, scattering 1x4s and 1x6 chunks. I tell my faithful ox Blue to give me some room, and I take a quick batter stance and I swing my mighty axe high above my head, and with the power of a demigod I slam down on the log. And do you remember when I just explained the proper way to swing an axe? Shoulder width, stance, square to the wood. Well, a batter stance is just about as opposite as you can get. So when my aim in the dark came down a little short of its target, I clipped the log, and bam, the impact into my shin is enormous. I instantly cannot feel anything from my knee down. Holy crispy bacon, I have embedded my axe into my own shin. And I go to look at it and I can't look down. So I toss the axe away from me, but when I move the axe, my leg lifts and rises into the air. Oh my flipping stars and garters. The axe is stuck in my leg. I need to look down and see how bad this is. But I can't. For I can't even force my head to bend down. Moments ago, I was laughing to myself about my dad hurting his thumb, and now I have tried to amputate my own leg. I should call for help, but I need to look first. But I still can't do it. I try to pull the axe out of my leg, but all I do is lift my leg back up into the air by the axe handle. I just holler, and it comes out like a squeak. Then, by accident, I lose my balance on all the crap that's laying on the ground and maybe the pool of blood or whatever. But my good leg slips and I shift all my weight real quickly so I don't move my damaged leg. But when I do this, I end up looking directly at my axed leg. And wow, I noticed something is not right. I still cannot feel my leg from my knee down. But the axe head is at the floor, not at my shin. And I'm not bleeding out all over the patio. So let's go back and look at how this swing happened in slow motion. The axe is coming down and hits the log on the edge facing me. As it passes through the log, the part of the log splits right in front of me and takes a large section with it. This chunk of wood goes flying through the air straight at my shin and hits my leg like a baseball bat. The axe continues to the floor and slams into a 1x6. And it's a chunk of scrap wood barely big enough for me to be standing on. I am sitting there looking at this axe less than an inch from my shoe. Now, every time I lift up on the axe handle, the axe head lifts the 1x6, which lifts my leg into the air. And not being able to feel anything, I'm sitting there holding the axe handle, looking at the axe into the wood, lifting my foot up with that piece of 1x6, and it still feels like that axe is in my shin. It was amazing. I realized that through God's grace, once again, He has taught me a lesson without costing me my leg. So thank you, Father God. I still have 2 legs. Yet at the moment, my one leg is completely numb and I can't really move it. So I find a log and I sit down and I pull my pant leg up, and there's this huge bump on my leg right on top of the shin. And just a little blood, but nothing like I thought was going to happen. And I sit there and I wait until I can get enough feeling that I can hobble back in the house. Oh, and the lesson I learned through this ordeal was it proper stance every time you chop wood? No, I didn't learn that one. How about keep your aim true when swinging an axe? No, that's not what I learned. What I learned was that a self-righteous, judgmental mind and attitude is a mind and attitude looking for a lesson from God. We are all self-righteous and judgmental from time to time. It's a classic way to make yourself feel superior to others when we behave this way, we need to be reminded that how selfish and meaningless that attitude makes you. We all make mistakes, and you need to give empathy for those that make mistakes, not be judgmental. So, enjoy your coffee, and I'll enjoy mine while standing on 2 legs today. And don't forget, be nice to each other. Until we meet again.